Very happy to introduce Chris Harding, who is the Senior Planning Manager at the IMP Aerospace. Chris, welcome. We're very happy to have you here with us speaking to the classes and junior achievement. To start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role and what you do?
Yes, thanks very much. Happy to do this. Happy for the opportunity. So thanks very much for having me. So I'm the Senior Planning Manager at IMP Aerospace. So I look after a department called Production Engineering, and on the aircraft that we repair and overhaul here, everything needs to be, all of the work that's carried out on the aircraft needs to be documented and accounted for by the technicians, the men and women on the hangar floor that work on the aircraft. So our department, Production Engineering, is responsible for issuing the work orders or work instructions to the technicians, so the aircraft can be torn down and repaired and built back up and flight tested and delivered. So my department generates those work instructions. We also estimate the work as well. So depending on the nature of the job and the complexity of the job, the planners and estimators that work for me will assign estimates to those work orders as well. So that's my current role. I manage that production engineering department here at IMP. A little bit about my background. So I grew up in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Went to high school there. So when I was in high school, a long time ago, as I'm sure you all can guess, but I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I was interested in aviation. I was interested in aircraft. So I was originally leaning toward becoming a mechanic or a aircraft maintenance engineer. And then my guidance counselor in college had connected me with a program in Thunder Bay, Ontario called Aviation Manufacturing Engineering Technology, which is a mouthful, but it's a 3-year program, and it's still ongoing in Thunder Bay at Confederation College. It's similar to, there's a similar program at NSCC called Mechanical Engineering Technology, and we've actually taken a lot of graduates from that program from NSCC into our department here as planners and estimators. The main difference between the program I took and that one is the program I took was a 3-year program. It was definitely had a heavy emphasis on aircraft and the aviation industry, whereas the NSCC program is a little bit more general, I suppose, and it kind of prepares you for, I mean, you could go into a multitude of industries after you graduate from that program. So I chose to go to take that program in Thunder Bay. Between my second and third years of college, I managed to get a summer position for a few months at Bristol Aerospace. That was called Bristol Aerospace at the time. That was in Winnipeg. And then when I graduated, I went back for my third year, graduated, and they asked me to come back full time. So that's where I started my career, was actually at Bristol Aerospace in Winnipeg. They're now called Magellan. They were bought out probably about 25 years ago now by a company called Magellan. So that name is probably more familiar to people today. So I spent 10 years there through the 1990s. I had a short stint at Standard Aero, and they overhaul turboprop engines. So I was at Standard for about a year. And then I went back to Bristol, or now Magellan. And at Bristol, I was a planner, so I was doing the job that I manage now, planning and estimating on a different aircraft repair and overhaul program. That was a CF5 fighter jet. That aircraft's now retired, but that was a really interesting program. It was designed to be the lead-in trainer for the CF-18 fighter. So it was a very dynamic, very interesting program. We did a lot of modifications to that aircraft, structural modifications, avionics modifications. So so that was an interesting program. And then I was able to, being from Yarmouth, I kind of always had my eye open toward toward coming back to Nova Scotia. So in 2000, I got the opportunity to get on here with IMP Aerospace out at the airport. And at that point in time, they had just won a contract with the U.S. Navy to overhaul their Sea King helicopters, or their H-3 helicopters. And even if you're not familiar with Sea King, you might be, because if you've seen the president fly around, President Biden or Obama or Trump, all the presidents use that big green helicopter that you see them take off and land at the White House. That's an H-3, that's a Sea King. And the U.S. Navy flew literally hundreds of those over the years. So we had a repair and overhaul contract for those helicopters. That's a program that I started on. I spent about 5 or 6 years, I guess, here at IMP, and then I was promoted to the manager role, and so I started taking care of all of the intermediate, junior, and senior planner estimators in the company. So I moved into management in about 2006, 2007. I spent about 5 or 6 years doing that, and then I went into program management, which is a little bit different. That's basically where they give you an aircraft, or they give you a program, whether it's modification or repair and overhaul program, and you are responsible for the entire project. So not only the technicians and the mechanics and avionics technicians on the hangar floor, but you're also responsible for the material side of things, the planning and estimating, the contracts, you name it, basically engineering as well. It all kind of comes under program management, and you are trying to orchestrate the different departments to work together to make the program a success. And then in 2019, I came back to production engineering. That was after my stint more than a stint, I guess, 6 or 7 years in program management, and I've been back with production engineering ever since in 2019. So my background is for education-wise is a technologist through the community college in Thunder Bay, but it really, that program I found really prepared me for. I could have gone into a number of different areas within the aircraft industry. And I'll be honest, like when I think back to high school, and I think back to when I was trying to decide what it was I wanted to do, I was very, when it came to aircraft and aviation, I kind of thought, well, you're a pilot, you're a flight crew, you either fly in them or you fix them. And really what wasn't apparent to me at the time was there is a whole other universe of support type activities. And so that was a bit of an eye opener to me, and that program in Thunder Bay really opened my eyes to the fact that it's not only the men and women that turn wrenches on the aircraft, and it's not only the pilots and the flight crew that fly them, but there is a massive support element to the aircraft industry, whether it's purchasing, the buyers who buy the parts and hardware, the contracts people who set up the contracts, like our department who plan and estimate the work that's carried out on the aircraft. There's a whole realm of support work that wasn't apparent to me at the start, but became pretty apparent to me, as I moved through that course, that technologist course, and out into the workforce.
That's really interesting, Chris. Thanks. And I want to say that IMP Aerospace and Defense, I believe, is going to be present at our showcase at the end. So for more questions and opportunities around careers possible through IMP, there'll certainly be an opportunity for students to talk to some of your colleagues, I believe, there. Can you just speak to a little bit, because I think it's really amazing when we talk. So, our next mentor on the call, Irving Shipbuilding, IMP Aerospace and Defense, the type of huge, like you said, the helicopters that the presidents fly, or, those contracts that we're doing some really amazing, big jobs through huge huge opportunities within Nova Scotia that I think sometimes people aren't aware of. We think of us as like, the East Coast, sometimes the poor cousins of Vancouver or Ontario. But I think it's really great to highlight these opportunities. These are like really heavy hitters, and the opportunities in skilled trades or technician technology. Can you speak a little bit about IMP and your role in those contracts?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've done recently in the last year is I've gone on a number of recruiting trips because we are challenged from a resource standpoint across all areas of the company, not just technicians, although we certainly need technicians. But and one of the things I found is to your point is as we go to Ontario, we go to Manitoba, and we go to career fairs and on these recruiting efforts, how little is known about IMP. And even in the local area, people may have heard of us, but they don't know exactly what we do. And we do some pretty cool work. I mean, we take care of the entire fleet of search and rescue helicopters, the Cormorant search and rescue helicopters. We do heavy maintenance on those. We also have a presence at the bases, so Greenwood and Gander and Comox, where the search and rescue helicopters are based out of. We take care of the CP-140 Aurora, the maritime patrol aircraft. We've done a number of extensive modifications on that aircraft over the years. We just finished 2 years ago, we did our last structural upgrade to the Aurora, and that will see it through to, it'll be flying well into the 2030s, if not beyond. And what we did on that program, we replaced the wings, brand new wings from Lockheed. They manufactured brand new wings of the aircraft, a brand new horizontal stabilizer on the tail. So those were all areas on that aircraft that were prone to wear and tear and cracking and that type of thing over the years. So we're talking like heavy maintenance that we perform here, and it is some very, very interesting work. No 2 days are the same, that's for sure. So yeah, a little bit about IMP, I guess, and just the type of work we do that not a lot of people know about, and it usually raises some eyebrows. I mean, at the career fairs that we've gone to, people will ask about us and say, well, IMP, and usually my first question is, have you heard of us, and do you know what we do? And usually the answer is no. Tell me more. So I'll go into a bit of detail as far as the work that we do. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know if we're off the radar or low on people's radar by design or not, but certainly the way the current job climate is now, and the fact that we need the number of resources that we do, we can't be that way anymore. We got to get out there and let people know exactly what we do, and the work we do is pretty cool.
It's very cool. Brett, what question do you have for Chris?
Yeah, and I mean, I just learned what IMP is for the first time in this call here today. So it's really interesting to hear about what you do. But I want to touch into where you mentioned where you did your education. Yours was very aerospace specific, but you mentioned the program in NSCC that you've hired graduates from before. That's a bit more general and covers a wide area. Like, what do you think are some of the skills that are in your trade that are learned in this general program that kind of transfer not just to your industry, but also other industries as well?
Yeah, I think, math for sure. The math that's taught in those technologist programs that comes into play for sure. That program covers, it does cover project management as well, and scheduling, and how to actually oversee a project. They've got like a final project that gets pretty intense, and it basically teaches you how to set goals. You have your project that that's your deliverable that you want to deliver to the customer, and if you look at it on a whole, it's a little bit daunting, but it teaches you how to break projects down into goals, how to achieve milestones, the work that needs to go into each of those milestones. That's one of the bigger, certainly for production engineering, that's one of the bigger skills that we look for from that program. The other thing as well is how to work as part of a team, how to communicate to other individuals, how to work together. how to relate to a customer if you've got a deliverable for a customer. That's huge. And the other thing is technical writing as well. So writing skills. That's one of the big things in the aircraft industry. Everything is documented, everything is written down. So if I, as a planner, if I've got an issue on the aircraft that I need to communicate to engineering to get their assistance with, I need to make sure that I communicate that in a clear and coherent way that they can interpret. So those are probably the big heavy hitter skills, I think, from those programs.
Thank you very much. You really touched on a lot of great points there. If there's any questions for any of the students that come in the chat, we have another 2 minutes to answer any questions. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I definitely really appreciated and was very intrigued listening to not just what you do, but also what your company does as well too.
No worries.
And,
Yeah.
First question from the audience here, and what salary ranges exist in your industry from entry level and beyond?
So for planners, in my department, production engineering, so a junior planner coming out of college would be in the $24 to $25 an hour range, and they go all the way up to senior planners are in the mid 30s. So that kind of gives you the wide range. But yeah, a junior planner coming out of college would be in that $24 to $25 an hour range. Yeah.
Thank you. And we also got a question of what are your hours like?
So hours here are for our department generally are Monday to Friday and 7:30 till 4, or 8 to 4:30. There's a little bit of a flex on hours. There is quite often overtime just because programs get behind. We need to work to catch up. But yeah, in general, it's kind of Monday to Friday, and then with overtime available.
What is the work environment like? I find that a really good question too, because I imagine I've seen IMP when you drive to the airport. It's a huge sort of hangar space. So like, what is it like when you're there?
It is. So for our department, the environment it's an office environment. So you are, you have a desk and a computer. Normally they're right off the hangar floor. And there's a lot of interaction in our department with production. So I've always told people, especially new to company, coming out of a course like NSCC, we understand that you don't have an aircraft background, and that's totally fine. But as long as you're open to learning, this is the way you learn. And I always tell them there's no such thing as spending too much time with production. So if you need to go out and look at the aircraft and look at a problem that's being described by a technician in order to figure out what the repair is or how long it's going to take or what the steps are that's involved, absolutely. A good portion of a planner's time is spent with production, talking to the technicians, talking to the lead hands or the foreman, and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to fix this problem on the aircraft? What do we need? How long will it take? Are there parts involved? That kind of thing. So it's your home base is an office with a desk and a computer, but it is dynamic in that you spend a lot of time on the aircraft with the technicians, learning the ropes, learning the aircraft, learning the technical manuals and the drawings and the documentation that goes with those aircraft.
That's fascinating. It's really cool what you do. I'm going to squeeze in one last question, Chris, and then we'll let you go. Thank you so much. As Brett said, it's been amazing having you here and learning more about IMP Aerospace and Defense. What's your favorite thing about your job, and then maybe your not so favorite thing about the job?
Maybe it's the same answer for both. As a manager, it's probably people, really, to tell you the truth. The different personalities. There are challenging personalities that you deal with. I mean, sometimes that's maybe my least favorite, but also the people aspect is my favorite part, because you get to there's an individual right now that works for me that from a succession point of view, he's coming along and just to see people progress through the different levels within the department and the potential that they have within the company, whether it's within our own department or whether it's another department altogether to gain additional skills. That's probably, my favorite part is to see people progress, see them succeed, because overall, and we do lose a lot of people from our department internally, like to other positions, because working in planning or production engineering, you get exposure to a wide range of activities within the company, and you become knowledgeable on different processes and that kind of thing. So seeing people succeed and go to other departments and be the best that they can be, or see them progress within our own department, I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of the job.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, again. Your chat was very insightful to all of us, and we appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your busy day.
No worries. Happy to do it anytime.